Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back from the break. I'm your host Adama, and we have Liz Hassan and our guest Diane Mills, who's the chair of Endometriosis She Trust. Thank you, Shepperson Mills, sorry, from Endometriosis She Trust. Sorry. It's a bit of a mouthful, mashallah. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. I wanted to know a little bit more about the history of the trust that you created back in '99, which was this.
Yes, we set up Endometriosis She Trust UK in order to help women understand what endometriosis is and how it affects them and what the treatments are, what type of help they can get with medical treatment and surgical treatment. And we've got 50 leaflets available on the website for people to download.
So is it support that you offer or information? How do you interact with them?
Information. We do have Facebook and Twitter. We have emails, shetrust@shetrust.org.uk. So people can send us emails and ask questions and we'll answer them. And they can go on the website and download information sheets.
Excellent. We'll be going on to our main discussion now, where we'll be speaking about endometriosis. Lower back pain, swelling, longer or heavier menstrual cycles. These symptoms sound all too similar to most women, but does that make it normal? Endometriosis is a condition that affects up to 2 million women in the UK, and yet we do not hear enough about it to recognise that these symptoms may be indicative of something else altogether. So how do we recognise endometriosis and what can be done? So I'm going to start with you, Diane, about this condition, which before the show I'd never actually really heard about. So what exactly is endometriosis?
Well, it's not fun when you have it. Yeah. It's where the lining of the womb, the natural lining that grows within the womb every month and sheds as a menstrual period, instead of just staying inside the womb, starts to grow on other organs of the body, like the bowel, the bladder, the ovary, and in rare cases it could be in the lung and eye, but that's much more rare. So when this menstrual tissue is growing in the wrong place, it's shedding blood, which is fine when it's in the womb because the blood is leaving the body through the vagina. But once it's growing on the bowel or the bladder or the ovary, the blood has nowhere to go, so it's stuck within the abdominal cavity. And that can cause adhesions. They form sticky strands that stick organs together. So some women have what we call kissing ovaries, where their ovaries are stuck behind the womb, or the ovary can be stuck to the womb or to the bowel. And that tissue, because it's bleeding, you get a lot of inflammation, as the peritoneal fluid is meant to support the organs and cause them to slip and slide. The bloody adhesions that form can stick everything together, and then you get lots of pain. Some women grow cysts on the ovary. Majority of them are 3 or 4 centimetres, like a plum, or smaller, or a grape. But sometimes I had cysts the size of grapefruits, and some people have had cysts that are much bigger. And that's when the follicle, it's released the egg, and then it heals over and fills with blood. And we call them chocolate cysts. Yes, I believe we do.
You could just describe some of the size that we should be coming up on the screen as well.
Well, if you think of the ovary, it's the size of an almond in its shell. And on the outer layer of the ovary, you have 400,000 eggs when you're a teenager. You have 7 million eggs when you're in your mother's womb. So we start to lose them, but these eggs are tightly packed and not a lot harms them. And when your pituitary is the size of a green pea behind your nose, and that sends follicle-stimulating hormone to the ovary to tell it to start maturing an egg. So 2 or 3 follicles start to mature, and one of them becomes the dominant one. And halfway through your menstrual cycle, the LH from the pituitary tells that egg to be released. So the membrane bursts and the egg comes out and is hoovered up, if you like, into the fallopian tube. And then that follicle heals over and becomes the corpus luteum, what's called the golden body. And that produces progesterone to make the pregnancy stay safe for 3 months before the placenta takes over. And it's if the follicle's wrong, you can get what's called a chocolate cyst, an endometrioma, growing on or in the ovary.
Diane,
Yes,
I'm really fascinated by this, and I had a look at the images there.
Yes.
And when you're kind of going into the discussion, a part of me is trying to recall back to my GCSE science days to see if I can remember any of this. And to be honest, I'm drawing a blank a little bit. You know, all of what you're saying is not something I've learnt myself, and it does make me wonder if there's other women out there who really just don't know about this.
Well, as a charity, we are at the moment running a pilot project in schools, teaching girls about their menstrual cycle, looking at 1 week at energy, another week at digestion, another week at skin health, because you go all spotty around your period, and another week on how you can help by eating healthily and reducing period pains.
That's an interesting start to the discussion. If you have any questions related to the topic at hand or any comments, please do join in by calling us with the number that will be coming up shortly on your screen. We'd love to hear from you. I mean, this is really graphic stuff. And a very, very complex, I would imagine, condition. So what are the symptoms that are associated with it as well?
Well, obviously, some women have lots of pain, but only small amounts of endometriosis. Other women might have large lumps of endometriosis and never have any pain. So it is a conundrum. We do not understand why that is. But the majority of women will get pelvic pain. And when you were talking earlier about period pain, it depends where the endo's growing. It might be growing the right side, it might be growing on the left side, it might just be on the womb, it might be on your spinal area. So women get pain in different areas to different degrees, but when it's extreme, it is breathtaking. You go into cold sweats, you can faint, you can vomit. And this is not normal. A period pain with just mild cramps
So it's a different
might
type
be
of
awful.
pain.
Oh, it's appalling pain. It's dreadful.
But isn't that the thing? I mean, a lot of women do get really horrible period pains, don't they? So how do they exactly know if they've even got endometriosis?
Well, the problem is you don't know. And an ultrasound scan where they put jelly on your tummy and look, they cannot pick up tiny spots. They might see a cyst, they might see that the ovaries aren't where they're supposed to be. But unless you have an MRI scan, that would pick up more. But the gold standard is to have a laparoscopy, where they cut a little hole in your navel and put a camera in and look and see. And also we were talking earlier about a biopsy, because you can get occult endometriosis, which you cannot see with the eye. You can only see it as a slide. But that is the best way of diagnosing it. But of course it's invasive. And we don't always.
The big problems with this condition, isn't it? That
Exactly.
a lot of people are undiagnosed, and you know we read a lot about this. Glamour magazine recently did an article about this actually, and described endometriosis and polycystic ovaries as the two women's diseases that doctors miss the most.
And some women sadly have both. But the problem is you've got to go to your GP. And obviously in the UK, unlike America and Europe, you can ring up a gynecologist. Here we have a GP as a gatekeeper, and you have to give the symptoms to your doctor. So the pelvic pain, the painful periods. You might have painful intercourse. You could have very heavy bleeding, flooding, brown sticky blood instead of red blood. Non-menstrual pain. My worst pain was when I ovulated.
Gosh.
Really?
And then pain when you're ovulating, you know,
I can
and
imagine all of this would be quite frightening for someone who's going through this. You are
it's
wondering
terrifying.
What's going on with me.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, are there people who are even more susceptible to this type of condition?
It's
are there groups of women?
difficult to know. The research in Netherlands with Hans Evers says that the women without endometriosis, their skin is like Teflon, like a non-stick frying pan, and the endo tissue's coming out of the fallopian tubes but slides off and is just dealt with by your white blood cells. But women with endo, it's more like Velcro, where the cells stick to our epithelial tissue and they seed themselves and grow in like a little dandelion, if you like. And most endometriosis is shallow or cysts, or you get the adhesions from the bleeding. But some women have what's called deep infiltrating endometriosis, where you may see a little spot, but there's a huge iceberg, a lump of endometriosis, sometimes the size of a man's fist, growing in the tissue.
Wow.
So the woman must see her doctor, take a friend or a mother or sister with you to say that my daughter isn't usually like this, and go through the symptoms and ask to be referred to an endometriosis specialist. Because what we're doing as charities is trying to get centres of expertise where they have not just an ordinary gynaecologist but a specialist one
We're
who
actually
goes
going to go to a short break. Sorry to interrupt you there. We're off to a quick break now, but do stay tuned as after the break we'll be back to continue our discussion on endometriosis. But before we go there, we have a reminder of our weekly competition.
This week on Women's AM, we are holding an exciting competition for you sisters out there. Up for grabs is a year's subscription for a sisters magazine. To be in with a chance to win this fabulous goodie, all you have to do is answer the following question. Which is the shortest surah in the Quran? A. Surah Al-Kawthar. B. Surah Tawbah. C. Surah Al-Fatiha. D. Surah Al-Nas. To enter, email your answer A, B, C or D to womensam@islamchannel.tv, along with your name and address and what you most like about Women's AM. The deadline for the entry is Friday the 18th of April 2014 at 4 p.m. All applicants need to be over 18 and residing in the UK. Please note, only one entry per person per household. A winner will be randomly selected from all correct entries, so get entering.
Do join us after the break shortly, inshallah. We'll see you soon. Assalamu alaikum.